understanding the five senses and how to position people, where people walk in, all of that is critical. Mm-hmm. Where did you learn this?
It was a vision. It was given to me. And it also, I market events to things I would go to, things that I would pay money to go to. If I wouldn't pay to go to it, I'm not going to do it because I'm not putting my name, brand, logo on anything that I wouldn't support.
Welcome to another episode of Around the Way podcast, where we help you get around your obstacles and find a way to redesign your life. We are here with Lorri Ashley. Do I need to say your government name, or is Lorri Ashley okay?
Oh, wow. You can do either or.
Lorri Lofton.
Lorri Lofton. A lot of people think that's a fake name. I didn't even realize that was a thing.
Why?
I don't know. I was told people think my last name's Ashley.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That's the power of branding. It's so crazy because literally for the longest, I always thought you were a full-time entrepreneur.
Good.
Until we were literally walking up the steps. It's crazy. So could you tell people, I guess, what you do and how you're changing lives here in Charlotte?
Okay. By day, I work at one of the big banks in the city. I am a manager over a team of underwriters. Working from home has made mobility a lot more fun for me to be able to do things. I also am a news contributor for WCCB Charlotte. So pre-COVID, I was on air once a week, kind of like the couch talk, the reel, the chat, all that, the view, but not as political.
For sure.
And I was able to brand myself that way. COVID hit, but now I'm kind of like a field reporter, if that makes sense. So like any grand opening, I can cover for them, use my phone, and send the footage back to them. I'm the creator of Gracefully 5417, which is an events company. Long story short, I put together Charlotte's first ever brunch festival. We just had it August 21st. We had over 600 people at Norfolk Hall over in South End Charlotte with Shandon Garden Spritz, which is part of Moet Hennessy. That was my title sponsor.
Dope.
And just highlighting local restaurants in the community from Ruby Sunshine. And then we kind of pivoted in this COVID era and used chefs because a lot of brick and mortars could not give up people to do the brunch festival.
Exactly.
I'm doing that in Louisville, Kentucky next month. Louisville Brunch Festival, and I do events in Greenville, South Carolina as well. Pre-COVID, I was there every other month. The first Wednesday, Women in Charge Wednesday, highlighting the women in the Greenville community that's in charge of her brand, in charge of her destiny. And we would just do networking events down there. COVID hit, so we in the house.
This is wild.
Yeah.
All this with working a 9 to 5. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about that.
It's fun. It makes it fun for me. It makes it, I live by myself and my brain doesn't sleep, if that makes sense. I'm always looking to make things and people better.
Okay.
If you're adding me to your team, I'm looking, how can I fill those holes? How can I fill those gaps, process gaps? A lot of people have process gaps and may not realize it.
Exactly.
So my goal always, if I'm leaving a situation, I want to leave you better than what I found you.
For sure. So oftentimes I hear that, and I am that oftentimes as well. But oftentimes with being that person, there's also private process gaps that we have as individuals. And a lot of times when we're trying to serve the world, there's a lot of times where we aren't serving ourselves. What are some of your process gaps?
I would say COVID shined the light on those for probably not just me, but everybody, right? So with that being said, I think my process gap is just taking time to rest. And true rest, like to turn off, disconnect. I think in our society to be so plugged in with Clubhouse, the newest this, the TikTok, whatever, and having to be on brand, as you brought up in the beginning.
Yeah.
I think my process gap is truly resting and truly disconnecting and being okay if you do miss a call or an opportunity. And what I am finding is what's for you is always going to be for you. You don't have to always be in the city of Charlotte, to be invited to whatever it is. They'll come find you if they want you in their establishment, at their grand opening and all of that. And I have truly found that it's okay to rest and disconnect.
Exactly. And for me, for the longest, it was hard to rest and disconnect. And what I realized is that I was running from really dealing with something. And as I've reflected, it's either two things. You're running towards something or you're running from something. Mm-hmm. What would you identify with most?
I'm going to say running from. So when my father passed in 2016 in Birmingham, Alabama, he passed away in his sleep. I went home, buried him, came back and kept going. Like I had an event maybe the next week. And so I didn't really properly grieve. I did go to therapy for it eventually, but I was just like, even I was highlighting Felicia Gray. And she was like, Lorri, you sure? And I was like, yeah, let's go. And she was like, you sure? Like she's looking at me like, you good? And I'm like, yeah. So I think at that moment in time, it was me running from something because I wanted to build my brand. I wanted to keep it going, you know, and truly I needed that time to grieve. I needed that time to disconnect. I needed that time to process. And a lot of times resting is processing. You're allowing yourself to kind of re-up yourself, right? So yeah, I definitely would say it was running from, but now I've running to something. I definitely want to make my footprint bigger than Charlotte. I feel like I am established here and I want to plant and branch out way further than this city.
What's your best piece of advice for somebody that, whether they're running from something or running towards something, because you've been on both sides of the spectrum, what's your best piece of advice for that person?
Consistency.
What does that look like?
You define it. Because I can't tell you do it every day. Because working out 3 times a week or 5 times a week, because you can go in there 5 times a week, do 10 minutes worth of work and still go and eat a 4 for $4 from Wendy's and it didn't go, right?
Exactly.
But if you're in there focused 3 times a week and that's your consistency, you're probably going to be ahead of the rest, right? So you have to be consistent, whatever, and you define what consistency looks like for you, much like with posting. If posting on Instagram is once a day for you, perfect. But if it's once a week for you, perfect. But be okay with when you define consistency, what you're going to get back.
Exactly.
And know that if it's time to take it to that next level, then you got to be ready as well. You can't pray for these things and then not be ready for them.
Exactly.
So yeah, consistency, but you have to define that.
I think you've done an amazing job with defining your brand on social media. And I'm truly inspired by the work that you do from afar. But oftentimes I ask myself, who is this person? Right? Who are you in 2 sentences?
Travis is in the room. I just have to say that. So the hesitation is because of him in the corner. Who am I? I would say I am a small town girl in a big city looking to leave a lasting impression for others to build from.
I like that. My mentor years ago, he said, if you could have 5 things most in life, what would they be? And a lot of things that I thought I wanted most weren't on that list after I really went through it again. And my 5 now is number 1, one day we're all going to pass. I want to be looked at from my children as an amazing father, as an amazing husband, and as an amazing man in the community. Number 2 is oftentimes I've been in situations where I'm the breadwinner in relationships. And I want to be in a relationship where I'm empowered by the woman that I'm with. And I'm proud of her. And I can be in the audience while she's rocking out a stadium full of people. Number 3, so my father, his mother died when he was 7, and he never had a father. And he was one of 13, grew up Jersey City projects. So through his life, he had to make choices based upon his environment. So number 3 for me is in 2025 here in Charlotte, I want to open up a boys' home for children that either lost their parents or didn't have fathers growing up. Number 4 is, this is actually happening in 2023 out here. I'm buying 50 acres of land to build Charlotte's first affordable housing community. And it's going to be 50 homes out of container homes. And so we're working on finding the land right now because I want to build a sustainable community for people that don't have access to information, don't have access to technology or opportunities. And then number 5, this has always been a big goal. I want to be able to win a Nobel Peace Prize for my level of impact around the world. So I say that because all of my activity aligns with those 5 things. If you were to choose 3 things that you want most in life, what would those 3 things be?
I'm glad you didn't say 5 because I was like, I'm going to get the 5. Okay, not in any particular order, but I'll just name them. Legacy for me is huge. Me moving away from all that I knew in Birmingham, Alabama, my father passing and me not being there and all that, my mom's still back home. I want my name to be synonymous with great things here in Charlotte. So I would just say number one, legacy.
Okay.
Even if it's like, I don't know, I don't want to say a monument or anything crazy, but you want
a monument.
I don't think I'm a monument. But in University of Alabama, we have bricks, it's kind of like the Walk of Champions type thing. If Charlotte had something like that, I would love that. Or like, you know what I'm saying? Like commemorated that way somehow, some way.
For sure.
Number two, I definitely want a supportive partner. Somebody that, like you just said, like if they're supportive, but also I want them contributing to the world as well in their assignment, in their area of influence. That's huge to me. I don't want anyone to be stagnant. Yeah. Because you ultimately end up being who you're around, right? So I want my partner to be in their area of influence, dominating as well. So I definitely need and want that. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to declare it. I'm going to have that.
For sure.
So that's number two. Number three, this might sound crazy, but I want to have children and my mom be around to see it. I want to see her in a grandmother role. I've never seen it. Obviously, I don't have any kids, but I would love to just see my mom.
Are you an only child?
I am. I'm my mom's only child. My dad had two older kids, obviously. So they're like daddy number one and daddy number two. Nice. So the oldest one is 20 years older than me. So I didn't grow up with them. Wow. So I grew up an only child. So I'm my mom's only. And I would love to see her in a grandmother role. I would just love that. Like all the whoopings that I know that I got, I'm sure she wouldn't give it to, my child. But
hopefully not.
Yeah, that would be number three if I could, rearrange this thing and make it all happen my way.
I'm going to shift the script for a second and hopefully we can take it here. If you could leave one message that would be received to your father, what would that be?
Is it a question or just a message?
Whatever you want it to be.
Are you proud?
Now I'm going to ask you that same question. I'm going to come back and ask you that same question. Are you proud of what you've accomplished?
I am. I still have work to do, though. I'm not done.
For sure.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we have situations in our lives where it's a crossroad. Either we make this decision and we go left, or we make another decision and it goes right. And we look back years later, months later, and it really took a toll on the current and present moment in which our reality shows us today. What was that moment for you in your life?
Say it again.
There's often times where that one decision can go two different ways. It's maybe a relationship, maybe a business deal, maybe a college of choice, maybe an opportunity, maybe an emotion that you didn't express, maybe a hug that you didn't give and you lost that person, whatever that is. What is that one moment that if you were to relook at that moment, you would choose differently?
So I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to say that I'm happy that whatever I did happened the way that it did, because I'm learning God uses everything, good, bad, and ugly, to shape you where you need to be.
For sure.
However, to answer your question, I would have never had a business partner when my first business here in Charlotte.
Okay.
Just because typically when you have a vision to do something, it's given to you. And you can have all the meetings in the world to try to share that vision and build a team and do all of that. But if they don't ultimately buy in, it's like, you ever had a really bad alignment on a car and you knew your car was out of a line and you're struggling, shaking. That's going to be the team dynamic the whole entire time. You're going to be struggling and toiling with that car that whole entire time. Y'all all in the same car together, but you're struggling with that wheel trying to get there. And you might get there ultimately, but it was a rough ride. However, if you just went ahead...
That was a great picture, by the way.
Well, thank you. But if you just went ahead and got everything aligned and everybody's on the same page, no matter if you got to do it alone and contract people in, you'll get there a lot smoother and you'll feel accomplished.
That's
deep. I would have never had a business partner.
With that person that is struggling, that has a misalignment in their car as an entrepreneur because they have business partners or even people, not even just a partner, but people that are influencing their decisions. What would be your advice to that person that's in the midst of that right now?
Shut your mouth. A lot of times we go to people, family members, and we say to them what our goals and aspirations are and what our dreams are and where we want to go and what we're going to do and this brand idea we might have. And again, that vision was given to you, that person. It wasn't given to them. So when you have that crazy faith, and I'm sure we've seen those, Michael Todd, I think, is crazy faith, whatever. Yeah. But when you have those moments that have been blessed with you, you can't share that with everybody.
Exactly.
And not too early. Let me say it like that. I think it's called germination stage when it's still, or incubation stage when it's so fresh.
Yeah.
Because you can typically have people that can kill that dream before it's even born. So I would only focus on getting, for those who are listening in this particular moment, get you a mentor in the space that you want to go in. So if you're looking to launch a hair care line or whatever, get a industry mentor in that hair care line that's going where you want to go, and only tell your crazy dreams to them, because I bet you 9 times out of 10, they've already either seen it, done it, or can tell you what's going to work and what's not going to, what's going to work and what's not going to work.
For sure.
So you can't tell everybody everything. Even, sometimes mom doesn't even understand, because mom's going to come from a place of just secure. Like, oh no, baby, don't do that. You don't need to do that. But it's not to say that she doesn't love you, but mom's playing her role. Moms Exactly. Are supposed to be there to nurture, or parents in general, right? They could say you can be anything, but then when you start saying that, they look at you crazy like, you sure? No, you're good. You don't need to do that right now, or focus on school right now, or whatever that is. Not to say you can't do both. Y'all heard my intro. I do like 5 things.
Nah, you do a lot. You like a Jamaican.
Yeah.
You do a lot. You need us. We're going to go on a commercial. We are back from a commercial break with Miss Lorri Lofton, government name that is real, actually. And this conversation has been absolutely amazing. You just ended by giving the keys of somebody that's in the midst of a challenging situation. And I believe everything is transferable. This could be a challenging relationship. This could be a challenging business partnership. This could be a challenging opportunity or a challenging decision that you need to be able to make. But I want to shift it really quickly. I believe that a lot of times, and the overall goal of this podcast is to pull back the curtain on people, not just to understand brands and get strategies and build businesses, all these different things. What is the question that you wish more people would ask you?
That's a good one. Have you eaten today? I'm for real. But no, seriously. I'll be honest, I don't know, because typically I want to get to the bottom of things. I don't like small talk. So the, hey, how are you? Typically people don't really care if you think about that. The people I come across, they don't really care. There's a few and far in between that. Have you eaten today? Are you good? And I know those people. And I pray for discernment every day, and I know who those people are. But typically people are connecting with me for a purpose. So just get to the bottom line. How much is it going to cost me, or when do I need to be there? So, yeah, I don't really know if that's a question for them. But I would just say get to the bottom line of what your purpose is. Like, why are we talking right now? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that might sound very rude to some people, but for me, I would rather you just cut the fluff and get to, like, what is it? Like, what's going on?
I think everything comes from experience.
Mm-hmm.
Why and what experiences have led you to this perspective?
Charlotte is an opportunistic city. And while you can make connections here, and I feel that's what furthers your brand and your goal and your name and all of that, making the connections. But ultimately, because it is so opportunistic, it's really just getting to the bottom of what's the purpose of us connecting right now? Is it that you want me to come on your podcast in a year or two? Is it that you're thinking you like the way I did Charlotte Brunch Festival, so you like the way that I execute, so let's get together and do that. Like, I think that's it. And a lot of times what I have seen in Charlotte is a lot of people want that shine here in this city, and they're okay getting it however they feel, in the sense of either copycatting, or either ultimately stealing that idea, stealing the brand or what have you. So at that moment, I'm just like, just get to the bottom of what's our meeting about today. And that's not rude to me. And some people want that, that fluff talk, but I could honestly care less. Just get to the bottom of what it is.
Exactly. You seem like a very structured person, very organized, know what you want. And I could be wrong, could be right. I feel like I'm right. But oftentimes that structure comes from times where we were knocked on our asses and it forced us to get things together. Talk to me about a time where you were knocked on your ass and it humbled you.
Well, I'll start with this. I know that we shouldn't fear anything, but I have a fear of failure.
Okay.
So I don't accept failure. Failure is not necessarily in my vocabulary, and I try my best to stay far away from it as far as events, execution.
Define failure for me.
Failure to me would be in the event space.
Or just in general.
In general?
Yeah.
I didn't fully execute. Period. I mean, even with anything, a brand, a goal, a post, if you didn't fully execute, and a lot of times execution takes time, and you can't half give when you execute. You got to be all in. So
I want you to talk about that, and we'll come back around, I promise. Okay. I want you to talk about that because I think how people hear it is I don't want them to miss perfection.
Okay.
So I teach people all the time, just do it and figure out the rest later. But I feel like in your response is kind of like it has to be with excellence and operating from excellence. But sometimes excellence can delay execution.
Okay.
And we're trying to get it perfect. And it took you years, but you even still are going to go through those growing pains as well. So talk to me, differentiate what execution means versus, I guess, this idea of excellence as well.
So I like your idea of just do it. And you can just do it. It can be done. I'm going to pick on Travis again. He wants something done in 2022 that we've talked about. I'm not going to put him on Front Street. But he was like, sis, you think that's going to be enough time? I said, yeah, we can start in November. He was like, you sure? I was like, yes. Because when you have the right connections, you can execute.
Makes sense. Got it.
However, if you don't have those right connections, there's no way you're going to operate in excellence.
Because those connections help you speed up time.
Exactly.
Got it.
So when you have the right connections, you can get something done in 30 to 60 days, maybe even less. So Brunch Festival is a very great example for me because I put the tickets on sale maybe August 1st, sold out the day before at 7:30 p.m. And I didn't need 30 days. I didn't need 60 days like people would say per whatever, because I knew on the flyer I had Moet Hennessy as a title sponsor. I had some heavy hitters in the building that I knew would draw people in. And then ultimately I packaged it up so well that I knew you would want to come.
So walk me through this process, and you can send me an invoice after this. How do you put on an event of this magnitude? I understand you have title sponsors. You had heavy hitters in the building. Walk me through the process of how you got the heavy hitters, how you got the sponsorships. And if you don't want to give all the game, just at least give me the top strategy.
The game is to be sold, not to be sold.
For sure.
But connections, that's all I'm going to say. Because literally, I didn't get the Moet Hennessy connection until maybe a month before.
Got it.
And I sent the email. They loved it. And they said, we actually don't want to do Moet. We want to do our new Shandon Garden Spritz.
Got it.
Everybody who knows the pandemic thing we're in, alcohol is already sparse. And they're like, this is a new product that we want to push. We have a bar cart. We have everything that we want to do. We're going to give free samples, and we want to be your title sponsor.
Got it.
I had the perfect connection that allowed me to operate and execute in excellence.
So anybody that's listening right now, what would be your piece of advice for being able to cultivate better connections? Not in just Charlotte, but in general. Because somebody right now has an amazing idea. It's like a mini Lorri. But they don't know how to get in front of these types of people. What would your advice be to that person?
I know this might sound cliche, but you have to network. But when you network, you have to network with the right people that potentially, I like to say, hold the keys to the building. I can't network with the receptionist. She always got to go get an answer. I'm going to network with the boss. I want to network with the person that opens the door and lets me in, because ultimately I bet you $1 million I don't have yet that he owns some other buildings in this city. So therefore, I'm always networking with the key holder.
How do you package up your brand enough, or even your pitch enough, for when you get into the door or get in front of that person that holds the keys to the building, that you're ready?
Well, you do your research. So if I'm in this building, let's just say it's the Moet Hennessy building, I know what their bottom line is. They want to put their product in hands of people, and it's a new product at that, which let's also look at the climate we're in. So we're coming out of, or we're still in a pandemic, but let's just say we're coming out of it in the sense of, people have been vaccinated and events are back on the scene. So now I've packaged up something for you that I can put 700 people in one spot that will be able to test and touch your product.
So what I'm hearing, just to run it back, for you to be profitable, for you to perform at a high level, for you to be productive in life, you have to have people. Whether having access to people that you can put in a building, or whether it's access to the person that can open up the building, right?
Absolutely.
So when you think of that person that has the keys to the building, you have to be prepared once you get that opportunity.
Absolutely.
And you only network very intentionally to be able to connect with these people, not the receptionist, no shades to the receptionist, but you want to be working with, communicating with, and building relationships with decision makers.
Absolutely.
But you also have to have enough influence, or people that have influence in the community, so that you can serve essentially as the middleman from bringing owners to potential customers.
Absolutely.
Got it. So now we're on event day, or weeks before the event.
Yeah.
How do you create the experience that you envision in your mind?
Okay.
I'm going to get it all from you today, Lorri.
I see. I'm going to go back to no shade to the receptionist. So the key to that, though, is even though I talk to, and I'm going to answer your question, but I love how you said no shade to the receptionist. You still have to be nice to people. My mom taught me to speak to everyone, from the janitor to the president, whatever it is. So just because I connected with that key holder doesn't mean that I didn't talk to the receptionist, because the receptionist ultimately can have you waiting in the lobby for 3 hours or 3 minutes. Hey, the Lorri's here, or he'll be back, so.
And he's sitting right in there.
Exactly. So yes, definitely no shade to the receptionist,
sure,
because everyone plays a key role, right?
Got it.
So to answer your question, I'll use Brunch Festival as a great example. When you come in the door, I wanted you to have a true experience. And I want it to be aesthetically pleasing, and I wanted it to touch all senses. So with that
Talk to me about that.
Yeah.
That's
so
interesting.
I wanted you to smell the food cooking. I wanted you to have that aroma in the air, because you knew to come hungry. You're coming to a brunch festival. So I knew what I wanted it to smell like. The people had to tell me their menu options before they got there. I knew I did not want 19 shrimp and grits. We don't need that. Everybody's shrimp and grits. Okay, yours might be the best, but let's just make it different. There was a lady who actually came from Virginia. She drove down to be in this brunch festival. Her name was Cutta's Kitchen. She said, I am coming to Charlotte and I want to go ahead and get, and I said, sure, pay the vendor fee. Let's get it. But she was first, and she was first strategically because she had potato skillets. You ever heard or smelled potato skillets cooking?
I don't even know what that is.
Just potatoes, like a hash casserole.
Oh, okay.
Potato skillets. Okay. But she set up hers first, and that is the first thing you smelled when you came in. Potatoes cooking and roasting, and like onions and garlic and all of that. Look, he already nodded.
Where was she positioned?
First.
You did that?
Yes, she was first. So on top of that, but before you got to her, there was the Shandong Garden Spritz bar cart. So you got free samples of Shandong Garden Spritz. So now that's a feel and taste. So now I've touched smell, taste, and feel. To the left of that, there was a photo booth site. So now you've taken pictures. So before you can even get in good, I've already touched every sensory that there could potentially be. Feel, sight, touch, smell, and all of that. And I wanted you to truly have a full experience of brunch, so that even though I may not have hit 1,000 people, I hit the right people that they know when they see this event again next year, I'm going to knock it out the park again. Anybody listening right now, y'all better go follow Lorri, and y'all better send her a Cash App, send her an invoice. So I don't know. Send her some money. That's amazing.
I've sat down with a lot of people, mentors, just people that throw events, but no one has ever been able to communicate, to create an experience through the five senses. Mm-hmm. That's good.
Thank you.
That's good. And I think about anybody that's listening, relationships are key. Understanding how to be a gatekeeper to people is key. But as you're creating and curating, not just an event, but an experience, like you communicated, understanding the five senses and how to position people, where people walk in, all of that is critical. Mm-hmm. Where did you learn this?
It was a vision. It was given to me. And it also, I market events to things I would go to, things that I would pay money to go to. If I wouldn't pay to go to it, I'm not going to do it, because I'm not putting my name, brand, logo on anything that I wouldn't support. So I've done day parties here in Charlotte. I love a good day party. I can be home by 9:00 in the bed, sleep, right? I've also done some late night stuff, like after the party. I've done midnight breakfast, certain things like that. But yeah, I have some other things in the works, but I typically only market to things that I would do. So I also walk through the space and just feel, like, if that makes sense, like just get a sense of what this space can give me. And I know that might sound crazy to those who may not get it, but yeah, I have to get a feeling from it. And if it doesn't feel right, I don't act right.
That's deep.
Yeah.
That's deep. This brings you joy.
It does. I love that. I love creating experiences. Travis was there. I'm going to keep picking on him. I didn't have on a special shirt that said event coordinator. I had on a shirt just like anybody else. We made 5 shirts, Charlotte Brunch Festival. The 5 were me and then my 4 volunteers. If I had it my way, I would have had the Shandon Garden Spritz and all that on there and the Charlotte Brunch Festival logo. But with the logistics that's just going on with COVID, I didn't want to take the chance to spend hundreds of dollars on t-shirts and never get them, because mail is just slow right now. Exactly. Everything's delayed. So I was very strategic with just what that was and where to spend money and still get a return that could create the experience that I saw in my head. Exactly.
I think oftentimes people come on podcasts, give speaking engagements, or even just give advice to people, but they don't ever get the opportunity to say that thing that they want to be able to leave people with. Mm-hmm. What is that for you? If you had 1 minute, 60 seconds to share one thing with the world, every ear had the opportunity of hearing it, seeing it on paper, feeling it within their spirit, what would it be?
To leave with the world? I ultimately want to have my hands in everything in the city of Charlotte and be so behind the scenes that you didn't know I was connected to it. And I'm okay with always not being in front of the camera but I'm blessed that I can put on that makeup, so to speak, or that beat face that I can go be in front of the camera. But I don't think I'll just use Danae and Blanc as a really good example. If you're familiar with that, I run the social media for that. People don't know that. And so I have my hands in so much, and I love that because I want to leave breadcrumbs in every industry in this city before I leave, whenever that is. And launchpad is a good word I love to use for this city because it is a launchpad. Charlotte has a huge identity crisis that we don't know what we are. Are we banking? Are we this? Are we Black excellence? Are we whatever? We were just fighting over the bathroom bill, 4 years ago, and lost All-Star. All-Star came. People were dogging our city because we don't have a nightlife. And there's just a lot going on within this city. So I just want to be so connected behind the scenes that you don't even realize that sometimes you're talking to me, you don't even realize you're talking to me.
That's so good. Lorri, thank you so much for coming on today. Close us out, please.
With what?
Whatever's on your spirit, whatever you're feeling.
Okay, so for those entrepreneurs who are listening, or anybody who's listening, don't be afraid to do it alone. Don't be afraid to go alone. Get you a I believe people should have two mentors, an industry mentor, whomever you want to go, whatever that you aspire to be, and a spiritual mentor, someone that you can connect with. I am huge in my faith. I am, well connected with that. It's not just for show or for Instagram. Some people just put God or John 3:16 in their bio and think that's it. No, it has to be a lot deeper than that.
Exactly.
So, I would definitely tell people to stay connected to the true source, and don't make a resource the source, if that makes sense. A lot of times we do that. We make a resource the source and then wonder how come we're getting drained.
Exactly.
Because you're not really connected to the source.
Exactly.
So stay connected.
Lorri, where can they find you?
Lorri Ashley on Instagram, LORRIASHLY. CLT Brunch Festival on Instagram. We got some other things cooking with Shandong Garden Spritz, so hopefully more to come there. Gracefully 5417 on Instagram. And Lorri Ashley Lofton on Facebook, but it's kind of for family over there. So.
For sure.
Yeah.
Lorri, you are a light, and I appreciate you sharing your story, your value. And anybody listening right now, connect to the source first, because that's going to be the provider to all of the resources, whether those are relationships, whether those are people that look at you as an influencer, whether that's opportunities within or outside of the city. And I want you to connect with the right mentor. Intentionally focus, write that vision down, go into that place where you can get that experience, trust your discernment. And then I need you to follow the necessary activity. But if you're trying to speed up the process, definitely build that relationship with the gatekeeper. But you have to understand who owns the keys, who holds the keys to the building. This is the Around the Way podcast, and we'll see you guys next episode.